It's Nick and Ron with another edition of Ask Ron. How you doing today, Ron?
Best I can. I have a voice, but I can talk.
That's good. Well, we got a lot of talking for you to do. We got quite a few questions here. First question is from Tony and Angie in Ohio.
Who would have thought?
Yeah, they've been asking a lot recently, huh? First question. Thank you, Godfather, so much for that AI training. So generous. What things in particular are you having your team put into place for your real estate business?
Well, I know ronsdealfinder.com uses AI, but the best one to answer that question is the one holding the phone right now and looking at me. That would be Nick.
Yeah, that is a good one. I like Ron's Deal Finder. It uses AI to basically monitor, I think, like 170 different data points.
Yeah, all over the country. Billions of data points all over the country.
Yeah, and it's just to find out who is likely to sell within the next 90 days, and those are really, really hot lists. So if you give our team a call, they can explain it a little bit better to you. It's 800-567-6128, and they can talk to you about Ron's Deal Finder and the AI involved there.
But you're incorporating it into other stuff here at the company.
Oh, yeah.
As we learn about it.
Yeah, their question was about the real estate business in particular, but there's just so much that it can do right now.
Yeah.
We mainly use it for advertising as far as helping us come up with ad ideas and what pictures we should use and how we should edit our videos. AI does a lot of our video editing for us. So like this video right now, you see captions on the bottom of it. Those are all generated by AI. So.
No kidding.
Yep. And
I understand if I'm looking down at the table like this, it'll make my eyes look forward, right?
well, if you're looking kind of towards the camera, we can do that. If we might try that out with this video. We probably won't do that for this particular video, but
It's really impressive. I mean, it just boggles my mind, and we're just getting started.
yeah, there's a lot to come with AI. Next question. Let's go down to Tabetha in Florida. She says, when I, as an out-of-state investor, am interested in a property, who is responsible for showing the property to potential buyers?
I have somebody put a lockbox on the door. We don't show houses to buyers. We let them in after they pass the screening test to see how much money they got to put down and how much they can afford per month. But you're going to have boots on the ground if you're going to work out of town. That just means somebody there. And if you don't know anybody there, you can all go on Craigslist and go under gigs and look for somebody, or maybe you can find a realtor there that can help you for some small fee. They don't have to list it to be able to help you. But most people, when they go to a city, have somebody in the city to be their boots on the ground for them. Not all of them, but that's the easiest way.
All right, another question from Tony and Angie. A topic that has come up in my real estate investment group is the rise of shared housing to address a large number of aging baby boomers. Can you speak on this and any plans you have to provide some training on this strategy?
I can't speak on it because I don't do it, and I don't have any plans to provide some training on this strategy.
We do work with Philip Vincent, which is, no, Philip Vincent is different. I was more thinking of the Gorinos.
Yeah, which is gone. So.
Yeah, well, I know they're still running they're running it for him. All right, let's see. The next question. As I type this, I am rereading your awesome book, The Less I Do, The More I Make. Each time I read it, I get new distinctions and it reprograms my mind more and more. Outside of your own books, what are your favorite business books?
Whoa, man. I don't really read books anymore, to be honest with you. I could spend that same time either listening to the book every once in a while or writing myself. So I don't have a big pile of books that I can. I'll tell you one that you really ought to read, though, and that's Winning Friends and Influencing People by Dale Carnegie. That book had an impact on me, but I had a lot of books that had an impact on me, so I can't think of it right now.
There's a good one that you had us read recently that you read was $100 million offers.
Yeah, but that's for people that are in the business. So
yeah, but I think it applies to any marketing business.
Maybe so.
And every business is a marketing business, right?
Yeah.
Now,
sure.
Be warned when you read that one. You gotta there's some language in there, so.
I won't bother anybody watching me now.
All right, another question.
They've already heard it from me, probably.
From Javed in Florida. Says, when I have an LLC as trustee for land trust, while property is rented long term, do I collect rent check payable to trustee account from the tenant
There's no
How would I
trustee
purchase this?
account. Trustees don't have an account. Neither do land trusts. So it'll be payable to the LLC that owns the land trust. And frankly, it'll be payable to whoever you tell the tenant to pay it to, but that's where you want it to go, because that's where you keep track of all the rents and all the outgo anyway, and that's the entity that will file a tax return at the end of the year. If you've seen my 4 LLC presentation, that would be entity C.
Got it. Another question from Tony and Angie. When dealing with sellers who need to think about whether they want to do terms, is it a good practice to tell them if they decide to list the property to get an exemption in the listing agreement for me or my company in case they change their mind before the listing expires?
They'll have a hard time. They'll have a hard time getting a realtor to do that, number one. Number two, do you really want to be actively marketing a property that a realtor is marketing at the same time? It's more trouble than it's worth, to be honest. So if you can't convince them, move on and work with people that you can convince.
All right. Kim from Tennessee says, can we close a 1031 exchange in a trust and then buy in the same trust? I read that it won't work as personal property.
You can close in a trust. That's the only way I will close, but you do have to buy in another trust with the same name. That ain't gonna bother me any, because the minute you deed the first property away, that trust is dead. So simply just revive it when you're using it to buy another property. And I think you can get away with changing the number in the trust, which technically doesn't mean it's the same trust, but I doubt your intermediary knows that. I'm talking about the house number is the trust number. Find out if you can use the house number for the next one and the next one. But you're supposed to close them in the same name, same entity.
All right, Tony and Angie again. I called a quantity no lead, and after reading the script with her, said she would still not be open to terms. I sent her the follow-up letter you taught in class. She texted me and asked if I could send her references. I responded and said, references for what in particular? I'm offering to help you get full price for your house. If you don't think you can trust me, you should not do business with me. Wouldn't you agree? I also said that all of my transactions are confidential, as yours would be, and close with an attorney at my expense. I then put her in my follow-up process and dreams and mentally whacked her. What do I do now?
Wait.
Or what did I do? Or how did I do?
You did great, man. It's a great response. And then follow up about every month just to see if she's sold it yet or whatever. Let her know you're there.
All right. Good job, Tony and Angie. All right. A couple questions from Lavern in Tennessee. If I use a realtor to be my boots on the ground, am I supposed to have a contract with him or her? And what all do they need to do for me?
Come on, it's an oral agreement between you and them. What they're going to do for you, they're going to A, put a lockbox on the house, and B, probably put a sign in front of the house. And that depends on what the house needs. If the house needs some cleaning up, and they usually do, they can get that done for you as well. So here's what you say. Here's a list of what I'd like for you to do. What do you think is worth it? What do you think I should pay you? And remember, we don't make offers, okay? We ask questions. It ain't going to be much.
What's that amount that you have in the back of your mind without saying it out loud to the realtor?
I can't see the back of my mind, but it again depends on what needs to be done with the house. That's simple. And depending on how much cleanup it needs, because the realtor can have somebody do that, and whatever else it needs. Maybe the lawn needs mowed. Okay, the realtor knows all of these people that they can get to do that, so it's what they're going to charge more than what the realtor's going to charge. That's probably ain't even worth more than $500 or $1,000. Remember, you're not showing the house. You're putting a lockbox on it, and you're screening them, and you're only giving them the number if they have money. And frankly, that's going to take the number of people that walk through the house down to maybe 1 or 2 or 3 at the most before you get at least, most likely, because most of the people who call you just won't qualify, don't have enough money down. So, and the realtor doesn't have any part of that. Except, well, they do, because somebody has to go over there and check from time to time, make sure the key's still in the lockbox and doors haven't been left open or whatever.
All right. Laverne again. Is there ever a time when we do not pay all the closing costs? And if so, when is it?
Yes. Every time the seller gets cash, even a $10,000 down payment or whatever, I'm going to make them pay some of the closing costs. In fact, I just bought one last week where I gave the seller $12,500 down, but we made them pay the transfer tax, which is called dock stamps here, and for a title insurance policy. And they wound up only getting $8,500 of that $12,500, which they squawked about a while, but again, they closed it. So if they're getting money, I put a heavy part of the closing costs on them. On all cash deals, I always try to get the seller to pay the closing costs, the hard part of it. In fact, it's normal for the seller to pay the transfer tax in any state. So if I'm getting title insurance, which I will always get on a all cash deal, then I put that on them as well. Those are your two biggest expenses usually in closing costs. If I'm using an attorney, which I hope you do, then you're going to pay that cost, but they don't get any cash. I can't expect them to bring cash to closing.
All right, and final question of this week is from Chuck in California. It says, I have a house in escrow that I am selling. The house is in a land trust and my friend is the trustee and my LLC is the beneficiary. At closing, the title company says the check must be made out to the trustee and the trustee is supposed to distribute the funds. But in order to do that, they need his social security number. I tried giving them the EIN of the LLC, but they said no. What is the solution?
Well, the solution is you're probably going to just let them make out the check to the trustee because it's an individual. The trustee can deposit the check and write you a check, and then you're home free. But if they're going to give frankly, I'd fight them on the EIN number because they don't have any right to get that trustee involved. They don't have any risk on this thing. They don't have any liability. They're not going to pay taxes, and I would worry that the title company would send a note to the IRS. It looks like the trustee just made this money, then they have to account for that. I'd fight that one tooth and nail, to be honest with you, and maybe even get another title company if I had to, if it's feasible. But if you do cave in and let them make the check out to the trustee, you better make darn sure that they do not report any income to the government for that trustee. And by the way, if they say they have to do that, you got to get another title company or get an attorney and explain the law to them. And you make a good point here. This closing agent can make or break your deal. So you need to develop a relationship with a closing agent that makes it easy for you to pass on these things instead of hard and working for you and not the other side. And just the fact that you're having this fight with the title company tells me you're not using an attorney, because if you were, the attorney would be able to point out to them that they can do it another way. So you're just going to have to maybe talk to the owner of the title company or somebody higher up, because I run across this all the time. I just closed 2 deals, and I tell you, I don't know where they're getting the folks they're putting into these title companies, which, by the way, are escrow companies in California. I don't know how they can let people handle these hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollar deals with such limited knowledge of what they're doing. I closed 2 deals recently. One was cash and one was terms, and both, one of them, my attorney closed, works for a title company, but she didn't do anything. I can tell by the way the closing statement looked. They made a mess. We had to go back 4 or 5 times on the thing. In fact, just to get the stuff on the closing statement to match the stuff on the contract, which any title company or attorney should be able to do without me having to look over the documents for them. It also makes a case to make sure that somebody looks over your documents if you're brand new in this business, your closing documents, buying or selling, before you just let them do it. So when you use title companies, you got to watch them like a hawk. In fact, you got to do the same thing with attorneys, because mistakes are almost always made. I'd say over 50% of the time, something's got to be corrected. And I want it done before they send it to the seller, and now we got to correct it, and the seller's, in it. So I make sure that I want to see the docs before to go anywhere else. Almost certainly something will need change. Also need to change to look at the note to see if the note is written correctly. If I'm buying for our owner financing, for example, I don't want them to put a due on sale clause in it. I don't want them to put a late penalty in it. All right. So these are the kind of things that I look for when I look at your documents. By the way, if you're working with us, I'd be happy to look at your closing documents if you're working with one of our mentors.
All right. That's all the questions for this week, Ryan.
Okay. See you guys next week.